during that hold, they will, at T-3, they will update it again and feed the information into the computer that's in the spacecraft, which acts as a backup for the guidance for the boost rocket itself. And the Agena is now approaching the west coast of the United States, Mexico, Baja California, and it will actually be about 1,009 nautical miles ahead of the Gemini at the time of insertion. It won't be quite that far ahead at the time of liftoff, but it will be ahead of it a little bit, and number 8 should be about 480 nautical miles behind it, and we'll have the three things whirling around up there together, hopefully all of them sufficiently synchronized so that they can carry on the remainder of this mission. They had awfully good luck with number 10, and they've had no problems in the countdown with with the spacecraft, so it should work out all right, but it is staggeringly complex. If it doesn't happen today, they have to postpone for 2 days, and then all the figures that they have are no good. They have to back up and do it another way entirely, which they have figured out in advance. And if it doesn't go that day, they got other figures, and it goes on for 16 days. So they've done a lot of work getting ready for this one, David.
Now, you were talking about the computers. It seems to me the age of the computer had to arrive before the age of space, didn't it?
I don't see how it could have been done otherwise.
You certainly could not figure all these variables with a paper and pencil, or at least not fast enough.
Maybe you might be able to figure the first set, but then if you didn't meet those conditions exactly, I guess you would just have to cancel the whole idea until you could sit down with a box of pencils and a bundle of pads and figure out the new conditions. You'd have to pick a time sufficiently far ahead so that you would allow yourself time to compute it.
To do the figuring.
The hold is coming up in about 30 seconds now. And this again is planned. This is to allow them to take care of any last-minute problems that might have occurred, none have so far, and also to let them lift off at the exact moment that they have in mind, which Jack King told us a while ago had finally been computed at 20 minutes and 23 seconds after the hour. 20 minutes and 23 seconds exactly for ignition. Here's King.
This is Gemini Launch Control. We're at T-minus 3 minutes and holding. T-minus 3. Just as this announcement came up, the hold was declared. This is the planned built-in hold. The duration is about 5 minutes and 35 seconds. We will then resume our countdown at T-minus 3 minutes, aiming for ignition of the launch vehicle at 20 minutes and 23 seconds after the hour. We have a window, a period in which we can launch of about 37 seconds. This is the launch plan at the present time. Following resumption of the count, some very important information will be going to the launch vehicle and spacecraft. These are the update flight parameters. The launch vehicle guidance system, of course, is the primary system that directs the vehicle during the powered phase of flight. We send a signal by hard line here at the Cape to the launch vehicle to put in the proper parameters. By radio signal, we send flight parameters also to the Gemini spacecraft computer, which acts as a backup guidance system in the event the primary system fails during flight. If, as on the Gemini 9 mission, the spacecraft computer does not receive the update signal at the T-minus 3 minute mark, we will continue with our countdown because the computer has information that was stored aboard at T-minus 15 minutes in the count. If the spacecraft computer does accept the information, we will make a check to ensure that this information is correct as we continue down the final 3 minutes of the count. We're holding at T-minus 3 minutes. This is Gemini Launch Control.
David?
Yes, Frank?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say a rather obvious thing, that in about 4 minutes they will resume the count at 3 minutes, count down 3 minutes, and then the rocket will take off. That's all. I don't really have anything to say.
It was kind of interesting, I thought. It was kind of interesting, I thought, that after that time when they had difficulty getting that last load of information into the spacecraft computer and scrubbed, did not go that day. They decided later that they could have gone without that having gotten in because information was in there already. It was only about 12 minutes old. Well, why didn't they know then that they could have gone ahead? It's just a simple human reaction. When they have to make a decision that fast, with that little time and with that much riding on it, they decided the safest thing to do would be to scrub. Later they decided, well, they could have gone ahead with it, but it's a perfectly human reaction. That's all I want to say.
Well, I guess nobody would want to make a decision like that if he were not absolutely certain, and then if something went wrong,
I know I surely wouldn't.
2 days later, everybody would be pointing his finger at him and saying it was your blunder.
Gemini 10 countdown in progress, leading toward liftoff at 4:20 p.m. Central Standard Time, July 18th, 1966.
T-minus 2 minutes and 22 seconds and counting. Both the launch vehicle with the primary guidance system and the spacecraft computer with the secondary or backup system both have received the proper update information shortly after we resume the countdown. All systems are still looking good at this time as we come up on the 2-minute mark. They're still verified. This is Gemini Launch Control, T-minus 1 minute and 50 seconds. We now have confirmation here in the control center that the updates received by the launch vehicle and spacecraft are correct. We are in a go condition at this point in the countdown. During the final moments of the count, the vehicle will go on internal power on its 2 batteries in the launch vehicle at 1 minute and 30 seconds. Right at this point, T-minus 90 seconds and counting. Some 10 seconds from now, the engines will be gimbaled. Once again, as a final check, the launch vehicle test conductor will alert the astronauts that this event will take place because they can actually feel it in the spacecraft itself. Now 1 minute and 11 seconds and counting. Most of the work in the blockhouse at this point is all monitoring the various consoles. We are in a completely automatic sequence. Now T-minus 60 seconds and counting. T-minus 50. T-minus 40 seconds and counting. During these final moments of the count, the pre-valves in the launch vehicle will open to permit the fuel and the oxidizer to come down toward the chamber of the vehicle. 30 seconds and counting. T-minus 20. Quick check in the blockhouse. All systems looking good. T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
Ignition as we go liftoff. Mike Collins reports the pitch program has started. Front looks good. T plus 20 seconds. Roll program complete. And the pitch program has started. Seconds into the flight, Gordon Cooper advised the crew they're looking mighty good. We have the proper roll and pitch programs in, and both guidance systems are go. Cabin ceiling at 5.7 pounds. Mark 1 minute. Ground and spacecraft clocks are in sync. One minute, 15 seconds. One minute, 30 seconds. 40 miles in altitude. Surgeon reports the crew looks fine to them. 1 minute, 45 seconds. We're 120 miles downrange. The crew reports an update has been received in the spacecraft.
minutes 4 seconds. And the crew has been given a go for staging. And 10 is go for staging, Young reports. 2 minutes 20 seconds. Crew reports they received another update. And we've got first stage cut off. Flight Dynamics confirms staging. And second stage thrust looks good. Young says his guidance displays look good on board, and they look good here in this control center. 3 minutes, 12 seconds into the flight. We're 120 miles downrange, approximately 60 miles altitude. 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Minutes 44 seconds into the flight. Altitude now about 70 miles. Guidance says both guidance systems are exactly what they ought to be. Mark 4 minutes. Final status check being taken now by the flight director, Glenn Lenny. He gets a go from every station and tells Gordon Cooper to give 10 a go. And Young reports he is also go. 4 minutes, 24 seconds into the flight.
Okay.
4 minutes, 44 seconds into the flight. Velocity reading 17,000 feet per second. Altitude a little more than 80 miles. We're about 320 miles downrange. Cooper says everything still looks good here.
The next thing is for the second stage to cut off and
5 minutes,
separate.
16 seconds into the flight, and we've achieved 80% of the desired velocity. We're now reading a little more than 21,400 feet per second. Cooper checks with Young to be sure they receive that 0.8 mark, and Young says, we got it. Very little conversation coming back from the crew. Good Seco. There it is, 5 minutes, 46 seconds.
That was almost on the dot.
On range, 87. Lenny says your go all the way to proceed with the IVAR routine, the insertion velocity authority routine. And the crew of the spacecraft is firing its thrusters. And Young says we look good. They're leaving the second stage.
They should be in orbit now.
Micheal Collins now reading some numbers out of his computer on board. The solutions compare very favorably with the ground situation here, calling for a 25 feet per second forward burn, and that is what Young is executing. 6 minutes, 53 seconds.